Good morning, everyone who just joined us. We'll give it a couple minutes before we jump into content, just in the event that there are others hopping in to join us as well. All right, good morning. My name is Scott Cahill. I work at the City of Cleveland Department of Building and Housing. And this morning's presentation is on non-owner occupied or rental registration. A couple of logistic things before we get into the content. My colleague Izzy Stewart is on and she will be monitoring the chat. If you have any questions throughout the presentation, please feel free to put them into the chat. We'll have some time at the end where I can respond to some questions that Izzy will compile and share. The purpose of today's presentation is to walk through the rental registration process. So we'll start by looking at the agenda. We'll start by talking about the Residents First legislation of 2024 and how it impacted the responsibility of landlords in the city of Cleveland. One of the main things that are different are the document requirements. So we'll dive into those first to make sure everyone understands what the requirements are and how to find and provide this information to the city. Then we'll walk through a step-by-step of how to apply for the rental registration on the permit portal. And then we'll talk about how to upload documents after you submit your application, because that is another situation that we've seen folks have questions about. And then we'll end with a little bit of information on support for landlords that need a little extra help making sure that they get everything that they need completed to register their properties to rent in the city. So Residents First legislation was passed in 2024 by the City of Cleveland, and the purpose of this legislation was to protect tenants from landlord practices and hold poor landlord practices, and hold landlords accountable for providing safe and well-maintained rental properties. It was also to enhance the safety, health, and the neighborhood stability by ensuring compliance with property maintenance codes. We know we have many wonderful landlords in the city of Cleveland who provide fantastic places for our residents to live and thrive. And we want to make sure we hold all landlords accountable to that standard, which was the purpose of this legislation. So some components of that legislation that were new for property owners who are renting out units of their property. So all non-owner occupied units must be either registered as rental or vacant. So if you, the owner, are not residing in the unit, it is either a vacant property where no one is residing, or it is a non-owner occupied unit, which has been referred to historically as a rental unit. This is true whether you are or not receiving any funds or thing of value for someone residing in that property or that unit, excuse me. And Residents First required landlords to prove that the units are safe from lead hazards. So this is probably the biggest component of the Residents First legislation as it pertains to rental registration. That requires a lead risk assessment be done for a property to prove that it is safe of lead hazards. We'll dive into more specifics of that when we get to the documentation section. So we need to make sure the property is free of violations, outstanding registration fees, tax debt, which are pretty standard practices to ensure that our landlords are responsibly following through with the requirements of owning a rental property. Another new component of Residents First is out-of-town investors must have a local agent in charge. We'll get into more detail on this later, but this is to ensure that out of county or out-of-state investors have someone who's local on the ground that's in Cleveland and able to take care of issues that arise on the property to make sure that they stay in compliance for the tenants that are residing there. Landlords also must show that their utilities are paid and their HVAC units are in good working condition so that tenants are not at risk of losing access to those things while they're paying rent to reside somewhere. Civil tickets were also something that came of the Residents First legislation, and these can be assessed for non-compliant property owners. Civil tickets are a $200 fine, plus you need to make sure you rectify the reason for receiving the civil ticket. Any civil tickets that are not paid in 6 months will be added to the tax duplicate for the property. And if you have questions about civil tickets, you can go to clevelandohio.gov/civil tickets. There you can find information, appeal forms, payments or instructions on how to pay, etc. So next we'll dig into the document requirements. Depending on the characteristics of the property and the owner, there's up to 6 different documents that you may need to provide to fully register your rental property. This is a table that shows each of those when they're needed and some links for how to get them. We're going to walk through each of these individually. Later today or tomorrow, we're going to post a video of this webinar as well as this content. It's already on the rental registration website of the City of Cleveland if you want to access these links, but we will add it to our website to make sure that everyone has access to the links in here and the information they need on how to obtain required documents. So the first document we'll talk about is your property tax statement. And who needs this document? It's everyone who applies. And the document just shows that the taxes are current or that you are on a tax payment plan. Many folks pay their taxes through escrow in their mortgage company, and they might not have a tax statement, quote unquote. If you have a tax statement, you're welcome to upload that, but most people can just go to the Cuyahoga County My Place website. And if you click View Taxes by Year, you can see a snip of the right side of that website where it shows that your taxes are paid in full. This is the documentation that we're looking for to prove that your taxes are up to date. If you're on a payment plan, it will also list that on this website, and that is sufficient to be able to register your rental property, knowing that you've taken the steps to set up a tax payment plan if you've fallen behind in your property taxes. The second document that's required is the lead safe certificate. This is for all buildings that were built before 1978. So lead-based paint was banned in 1978, and that means that homes prior to 1978 used lead-based paint, mostly because of the properties of the brilliance of the color as well as the resistance to fading over time. We obviously have learned that lead is harmful and can cause lead poisoning both to children and to adults. So it was banned in 1978, but homes built prior to that, layers of lead-based paint are in the house. And the goal of this lead safe initiative is to ensure that that lead is either abated or fully encased in fresh paint without chips, where lead dust or paint with lead can be in the environment where it can harm children or others. So when we're asking for a lead safe certificate, we are not asking for a lead safe risk assessment. We are asking for the certificate that's issued by the City of Cleveland, by the Department of Health, that says that your property is lead compliant. So in order to get one of these, you'll need to hire a certified lead risk assessor to perform an assessment. In that assessment, they will take dust samples from your property and have them tested. They will put together a report, a lead risk assessment report that is submitted to the Cleveland Department of Health. Once that submission is reviewed and approved, you'll be issued a lead safe certificate, which is good for 2 years in the City of Cleveland. And it's that lead safe certificate that we're looking for to prove that your unit is lead safe. We understand that this is a process that can take some time for folks that have not already completed it. And the city is willing to work with folks who are actively working to get this done or to abate a lead risk in their property. And so please reach out and contact us if that is the case. And we're more than willing to work with you as you go through the process of ensuring that your property is safe of lead hazards. The City of Cleveland is working this year for next year to link our systems together that are the records for rental registration and lead safe certification, so that uploading your certificate won't be required. We're also working with the county and to get their tax information, so that the first requirement of your tax statement would not require to be uploaded, that we could verify these two things automatically. We do not have that functionality yet for 2026, so we do need you to upload the PDF of this certificate to show that you are lead compliant. For many properties in the City of Cleveland, these two documents are the only requirements that are necessary, but there are other characteristics that might require you to provide additional information. So number 3, we'll talk about the Ohio Secretary of State Certificate of Good Standing. So all properties that are owned by an LLC are required to provide this documentation. And this is proof that they're authorized to transact business in the state of Ohio. This certificate, if you are a registered LLC in the state of Ohio, is fairly simple to get. You can go to the State of Ohio Secretary of State website. There's an online form and a $5 fee, and you'll receive your certificate of good standing that you can download instantly. You can see a copy of one on the right side of the slide. And this is the documentation that we're looking for any property owner that is, for any property that is owned by an LLC. The fourth document that might be required is a local agent in charge affidavit. So who needs this document? It's any owner who doesn't live in Cuyahoga or one of the contiguous counties surrounding it, which are Lake, Summit, Portage, Lorain, Medina, or Geauga. So any property owner living outside of those counties needs to assign a local agent that's in charge of maintaining the property and addressing issues that might occur while they are not locally available to do so. To do this, you identify your local agent, which could be a person or an organization, and then you complete the local agent in charge affidavit form. You can see there's a link here. There's also a picture of it on the right. Both parties sign and notarize or witness this affidavit. And what this does is it shares the legal responsibility of maintaining the property between the owner as well as the local agent in charge. So if there are issues that are on the property that are not being taken care of, the city can reach out to the owner and the local agent in charge to be able to work with them to rectify whatever violations or issues there are at the property. The fifth document that may be required is a HVAC inspection certificate. So any property that has 4 or more rental units requires an annual HVAC inspection. And this ensures that the heating unit is in good condition and won't leave tenants without heat in the winter. The way you get this certificate is to have a certified license inspector come and look through your heating system. They can fill out this form and sign or stamp their seal at the bottom, showing that the inspection of the unit was completed and it's in good working condition. Many older properties have one boiler or heating system for all of the units that are 4 or more. However, many of the newer properties have individual HVAC systems for each unit. If that is the case of your property and every one of your rental units has a separate HVAC inspection, we don't require that 100% of units are inspected every year. We require that 10% of the systems to be inspected with a minimum of 5 units, so that we can verify that the units that you have at the property are generally in good working condition and won't leave our citizens without heat in the winter. If you have a 1, 2, or 3 unit rental property, this does not apply to you. The final documents that may be required are your utility bills. And so this is for an even smaller population of landlords. So if you do have a property that has 4 or more units, and you as the landlord pay the utilities on behalf of your tenants, and that's for water, gas, or electric, you're required to show that you're current on the bills for those utilities. These you can get from your local utility provider. As you can see on the right, there is a copy of a water bill from the City of Cleveland Division of Water, showing that this account is current. And again, this is to ensure that landlords falling behind on utility bills don't result in tenants being able to not access the utilities that they need in the rental units. So each landlord in the City of Cleveland will be required to provide at least one of these and maybe up to 6 documents in order to receive their certificate to authorize rental occupancy. Next, we're going to move into how you apply for your rental registration. The applications in 2026 are similar to those in 2025, but they are accessible now on the City of Cleveland's new permit portal, which launched in December of 2025. So we're going to walk through step by step how to submit an application for a rental registration on the permit portal. So to start with an overview, all applications must be submitted on the permit portal. Payments can be made with a credit card or with an ACH bank transfer. And right now there are currently no fees to pay with a credit card on the City of Cleveland's permit portal. So definitely take advantage of that while it's available. That won't be forever, but it is a temporary with fee holiday that we have issued with the launch of the permit portal. So in the past, registering a rental property sometimes looked like getting a coupon in the mail and putting a check in the mail to a lockbox and your property was registered. Beginning last year, that was no longer acceptable to register a rental property because of the legislation passed in 2024. Because of the documentation requirements, we need individuals to submit an application and apply their payment online or in City Hall. So if checks are mailed to lockboxes that were previously used at banks to collect checks, those are no longer going to be accepted and will be returned to sender. There are a handful of these that we received in early 2026 that we're going to grandfather in this year. So if you did send a payment and you did not receive it back, return to sender, you can check with us in the city. But we applied it just to grandfather in the folks that had already mailed those in earlier this year in January or even last December to get ahead of the process. So a new application must be submitted each year. And this probably sounds more difficult than it is. I'm going to show you the steps that it requires of just identifying your property, who is the responsible party and owner of the property, answering a couple of questions. In the past, it was very important for residents to remember their RR number, and that RR number stayed the same year after year after year. Going forward, you're going to receive a new number each year that'll be RR, and the next two digits will be the year of your registration. So you'll get an RR 26 with a dash and 5 numbers for your registration this year. The good news is you no longer need to remember what that RR is. We can keep all your records just based on your property address. And what this also allows is on the permit portal, all of the documents that you upload for your property and the documents that we issue, like your certificate authorizing rental occupancy, will all be accessible easily on your RR26 record instead of mixed and having to find them back in the past on previous records, which is what happens when we issued renewals. Similar to the checks, we did receive some renewals earlier in the year before we disabled that functionality with the new permit portal. If that was you and you filled out a renewal this year, that's totally fine. We're grandfathering those in. If you submitted your documentation, then you are all set and should have received your certificate authoring rental occupancy. So the application deadline for getting your rental units registered is April 1st. We are issuing in this year in 2026 a 30-day grace period where we won't issue any late fees or tickets. So 30 days past April 1st. So May 1st, you'll have, in order to get these in order to get the application submitted and your documents submitted for your rental application. The city is dedicated to working with landlords to help make sure that we can support you throughout the process, especially since it has changed last year and into this year. So we want to offer that grace period to allow folks another 5+ weeks from now to be able to submit their registrations. So once you enter the permit portal, and there are many links to the permit portal on the City of Cleveland's website, the rental registration website, the construction permitting website, you can get to the permit portal through a number of different ways. The first thing that you'll need to do is log in. And if you don't have an account, you can register in the login page. You only required to provide a username, an email, and a password. You'll submit. You'll get an email to click to verify your email address, and then you'll be good to go in the permit portal. Some folks only access the permit portal annually for their registration. So if you do that and have forgotten your password, there's a convenient forget your password link. All you put in is your email address, and you'll get an email with a link to create a new password. Any of the usernames, emails, and passwords that you might have used in our past system, the Citizens Access portal, were transferred into the permit portal and remain the same. So if last year you logged into the Citizens Access portal with a certain email address, that same email and same password will be in our new permit portal. So once you're logged in, you want to start a rental registration application. On the main page of the permit portal, there are 9 boxes, as you can see on the left. Rental and vacant building registration is the bottom right box. So if you click that box, you'll be taken to a page where you can select the type of registration to begin. Rental registration is right there near the top, and then you can click continue at the bottom of the page, and it will start your application. The first piece of starting an application is entering the property address that you're looking to register. We are working on search capabilities that are improved from what our permit portal can currently do right now. We hope to have those out in the next year or so that utilize GIS. But for now, we are still searching either by parcel number or address. This is a step where some folks can be a little bit tricky. So the best way to search for your property is to enter just your street number and just your street name and no other fields in the address section. If you go down and click search, it will identify your property and fill in all the other information about the property, including the parcel number and the ward and the owner's information. So if you just search by address, you can have all of that auto-populated for you and you don't need to know it or enter it. If your street name is a number, it's helpful to put the TH or the RD at times. Try it with or without if you're having trouble identifying your record. And the full safe, if you are not having success with the address search, you can clear out all the fields and just put your parcel number in. If you enter just the parcel number and the search in the parcel section, it will pull all your address information as well as the owner information and ward and auto-populate that in the form for you. If you are not sure what your parcel number is, the Cuyahoga County My Place website is a place so you can enter your address and it will give you the parcel number associated with it. So once you've identified your property, you just need to add the contacts. So you'll need to add a responsible party. Oftentimes this is the property owner if you're registering a rental property that you own. You can select these from an account by clicking that button, and the information of the person who's logged in as well as the legal owner of the property will be there, or you can add a new contact. So if you do this in the responsible party section, and then below it in the property owner section, which you can see on the right side of the slide, this can be the same contact or these can be different contacts for who owns and is responsible for the property. At the bottom of the page, there's another section where you can select a contact for your local agent in charge. This is only applicable if the owner of the property doesn't reside in Cuyahoga or a surrounding county, as we talked about earlier. So if you do, you can just skip this box. If you do reside in another state or county, you can select an account and you can enter your local agent's information at this section. Again, either by selecting them from account or adding a new contact information for your local agent in charge. Once we know the property address and the contacts, there's just a few questions that we need to ensure that we have a good understanding of how you're using the property. Both the number of units and if you, the owner, are occupying one of the units. We do not charge a fee for a unit if the owner is occupying it. So if you own a 3-unit property, but the owner is occupying one of the units, you'll only be charged for 2 units instead of 3 because we don't charge for that unit where an owner is residing. So once you answer these questions with number 5, you'll be taken to a page that says attachments or upload supporting documentation. This is where you can upload the 1 to 6 documents that you may be required to submit in order to receive your certificate authorizing rental occupancy. However, if you do not have all those documents right now, it is fine to just continue application and upload those documents later. If you have one of the 2 or 3 documents that you need and you want to upload it now, fantastic. And you can upload the remaining ones after you've submitted your application. To do that, you can just click the continue application button and you'll move on to the next screen in the process. If you are adding a document here, you can see we accept up to 500 megabits, which should be plenty, as well as many different file types that you can upload. When you upload a document, you'll be asked to select the type of document. And from the drop-down, you'll be able to see that there's a property tax statement, a lead safe certificate, a local agent in charge affidavit, or in this case, a utility bill for water, or any of the other documents that are required. So if you select the type of the document that you uploaded and put a short description, you can save it. And right in the permit portal, you'll be able to see that document that you've uploaded, and you can edit it, delete it, or re-upload additional documents. And this is a place in the permit portal where you can manage all of the documentation associated with your application. A little bit later, I'll show you how to get there if you are not actively in your application, if you're coming fresh and want to rejoin your application or to see the documents that you have submitted or upload more documents. So whether you uploaded your documents or not, you can click to the next page, which is to submit your payment. So you can click the checkout button, and you can select your option to pay with a credit card and a bank statement, and then follow the options that are on the screen to provide the information for your credit card or your bank account. Again, right now, there's no fee associated with paying with a credit card on the City of Cleveland's permit portal, and that's temporarily. After you submit payment, you will be emailed a custom receipt which verifies that you have submitted an application and submitted payment for your rental registration. A point of confusion that we want to make sure we emphasize here is that document is not your certificate authorizing rental occupancy. So let's take a look at those two documents next to each other to make sure we understand the difference between them and when you receive which documentation. So on the left, you'll see a custom receipt. This is, again, proving that you've submitted an application and submitted payment, but this does not prove that you have submitted the required documentation to rent your property. You can see on the bottom of the custom receipt, it says the certificate does not grant the right to rent. All right. This document is created for folks who are in the process of getting the documents uploaded, but needed to evict a tenant before they were completed with their documents. So this document can be used in court in an emergency situation where an eviction is required while you are still working on getting all of your documentation, specifically your lead safe certificate is what we most often see with this. On the right side is your certificate approving rental occupancy. Okay. This certificate will not be issued until you've uploaded all the required documentation for your rental registration application. So if you are required to upload a lead safe certificate and a certificate of good standing with Cleveland and your tax documentation, once you submit all three of those, it will be reviewed by a member of the City of Cleveland's record rooms for rental registration team, and then they will issue you your certificate approving rental occupancy, and you'll receive that via email. So the custom receipt is received after payment and submission of application, does not grant the right to rent. The certificate approving rental occupancy is issued after all of your documents that are required are submitted and reviewed. That is what grants you the right to rent your property, and that's the documentation that you're required to keep as the landlord. This certificate is also available once issued on the City of Cleveland's permit portal if you ever need a copy or want to download it. Certificates approving rental occupancy are good for 1 year. They expire on March 1st of the following year. Once you obtain a certificate for this year through 3/1/2027, you'll be good to rent your property. Starting January 1st, 2027, you'll be able to apply for your 2027 certificate, which will go through 2027 to 3/1/2028. So we add those 2 months at the beginning of the year to give you time to apply for your registration for that current year before your one from the prior year expires. All right, now we're going to shift to uploading documents after your application submittal. So you saw the emphasis that you don't need to have all of your documents in order to submit your application. But that means if you submit an application without having all your documents uploaded, that you'll need a way to find your record or your application and upload those documents later once you've obtained them. So the next few slides will show you how to find your record and upload the documents that you need to finish your application. So the first step to find a record is to go to the City of Cleveland's permit portal. On the left pane of the permit portal, there's navigation options. You can see building and housing. If you click on it, two sub-tasks will pop up, and one is search building records. So if you click building and housing, search building records, it will take you to the screen on the right. In the top right corner of that screen, there's a search bar. So on your customer seat, you were issued an RR26 number. If you enter that number from your customer seat into the search box and hit enter, it will bring your record up in the permit portal, as you can see on the screen to the right. Search functionality also works by address if you've forgotten your rental registration number, though obviously having the exact number itself is a more direct way to find your application. Once you've found your record, you can see what documents you still need to upload. So if you click on the conditions button, which is on the right in the middle pane, it will pull up the conditions which say which documents we're still waiting on you to submit. So in the example on the screen, you can see there are two conditions. One was a lead safe certificate and one was a property tax statement. So those are the two documents that this application is still waiting on to be uploaded. We also send weekly reminders to folks when they are missing documents that are required to complete their application. So if you submit an application and have not uploaded all your documents, every week you'll get an email and it will list the documents that we're still waiting for you to submit. If you submit one of the two, you'll notice that the next email you get will only list the one that is still outstanding. If you have these documents and are looking to upload them, you can click Record Info and then go down and select Attachments, as you can see on the screen. That will pop up the Attachments box, which is the exact same box that you saw on your application when you were prompted to upload documents during that time. So in the same way that you could add documents during your application, you can add them here after your application. Upload the document, select the document type and save, and they'll be listed here on your application. Once you've uploaded all your documents, you will not receive your certificate authorizing rental occupancy immediately. An alert is sent to our staff once an application has all the documents that have been submitted. That alert tells our staff that that application needs to be reviewed by a person and finalized and issuing of your certificate. So it may take a couple days after you've uploaded your last document for the city to review and issue your certificate authorizing rental occupancy. You'll know that that has happened when you receive an email that has the certificate. Or if you come back to your record in the permit portal, you'll see that the record status will say active instead of additional information required, as this example has up here. If your record status is active, you'll be able to download the certificate authorizing rental occupancy from these attachments. Now, given that the process for registering a rental property beginning last year did require more from landlords than we have in the past, we wanted to make sure that ample support was available for landlords who needed additional assistance, especially our local residents who are older or have struggled with technology. So for questions about rental registration, We have a website with all of the information that were in this presentation, as well as an email address or a phone number you can call for assistance. We recognize that obtaining a lead safe certification is also new for folks that didn't complete it in the past. And so we have a website to help there, as well as an email and phone number here that you can email or call for support with our Department of Public Health in getting a lead risk assessment completed and getting your property registered as lead safe. For landlords needing extra support with technology, we've partnered with the City of Cleveland Department of Community Development to provide folks with additional assistance. If you would call and schedule an appointment, you can either come to City Hall or we can meet you somewhere in the community to help submit your application online and upload documents if you need support with the technical aspect of this, of the application. You also can go to any of the CDCs around the city of Cleveland for extra support. And many of folks at those places have also received training on how to support individuals uploading documents and submitting rental registration applications. So whether you are a tech savvy person or not, the city's provided paths to support you in registering your non-owner occupied units with the city of Cleveland. So now I'll take a few minutes to answer some questions that were put in the chat. I'd like to welcome Izzy Stewart, my colleague from the mayor's office, who has been consolidating some of these questions and will ask me them. If there's any questions that were in the chat that were not asked, please feel free to reach out to, that I don't answer in the time we have remaining, please feel free to reach out to those contact numbers that I provided, or the web pages also have a lot of different information. So Izzy, what are some of the things folks in the audience are curious about?
Yeah, thanks, Scott. I'm going to hit on most of them. I know some have been answered as you've gone through the presentation. First question is, I manage 2 condominiums in Cleveland. I've registered these 2 properties prior. The portal is not recognizing these 2 units by address, owner name, or parcel number. I just received a message that the file cannot be found. I have only run into this issue with these 2 condo properties. All other registrations are easily found. Are there any ways to find these properties in the system?
Yes, most likely you'll need to reach out to our rental registration team. The city of Cleveland uses the Cuyahoga County data for parcel and units in order to power its system. And sometimes there are issues where individual units at condominiums or parcels, multiple units per parcel, multiple parcels per unit, where the data doesn't match and the system doesn't recognize it. So if you're having that issue, please reach out to the rental registration team. They can go into the system and adjust that county data to reflect the reality of the situation you have at your condominiums to get them set up in a way that would be easy to apply both now and in the future.
Great. The next question, does this certificate from the state need to be dated in a particular time frame? Age of certificate.
Yeah, we generally look to, we don't have a specific rule on that at this point. We generally look to make sure it was issued in the last couple of years. So if you have one similar to your lead certificate that is within the last 2 to 3 years, that's fine. You can apply for a new one for $5 if you need and upload that one. But as long as it's within the last 2 to 3 years, we will accept it.
Does the affidavit have to be notarized?
So the affidavit has to either be notarized or witnessed by a third party with a signature. We prefer the notary, but we do accept the witness of that statement. Just because it is a legally binding document, the notary is always preferred. But if that isn't something that you can do, a third party witness with a signature is acceptable.
So if you have less than 4 units, you don't need the HVAC inspect certification, question mark.
Correct. 1, 2, and 3 unit properties do not need to be inspected for HVAC.
I registered the property in December 2025, and now the registration is expired and I already paid $140. How can I know what happened and do I have to pay for the $140 again?
So registering in December or in the year 2025 is for a 2025 registration, which expired in March 1st, 2026. So to register for the current year, you would have to register January 1st or in the future. If you had previously registered in 2025 and registered again, you would receive that refund and we could apply it to your 2026. But if you had not already registered in 2025 and that was your first payment, then that payment was to cover the year 2025 and you would need to register again for the year 2026.
Our client received a violation notice because their lead certification was not submitted. It was dated February and due this month. However, you stated there is a grace period to May to get all documents in. Please advise.
So those civil tickets were issued for the year 2025, and that was based on a 2025 application not being certified for lead compliance. So you do have a grace period for 2026 till the end of April to be able to submit your certification for 2026 so that you won't receive an additional ticket for 2026 later this year.
Do I need to complete the rental registration in advance, even if the property is still under construction or renovation? Or should I wait until it's fully ready to be rented before registering?
You can wait until it's ready to register, or excuse me, ready to rent before you register. But there's nothing wrong with registering it earlier because it will be good through March of 2027. So it's not anything that you need to do before you're ready to have tenants, but you're welcome to do it earlier if it is helpful to get it out of the way.
My lead certificate is stuck at the health department for unknown reasons. Please advise.
So you can reach out to the Department of Public Health at the number that I provided or email to get an update on the status. They are usually turning those around within a few weeks. So if it is stuck, a little nudge to make sure that it hasn't slipped through the cracks there might be good. If you've submitted your application and the document that you are not the only document that you haven't shared with us is the lead. We generally will take a look and send those over to the Department of Public Health to see what is in process over there before we issue tickets. But we wouldn't be doing that till later in the year, obviously at least till after May. So as long as you're in process over there, I wouldn't worry about it. If somehow you are issued a ticket in error, you can appeal that ticket and we would rescind it. But our goal is to avoid doing that. Our goal as the city is to help people create properties that are safe from lead. So if you're working in that process and doing what we ask you, we certainly want to support you and not do anything punitive or issue a ticket or anything like that.
Another lead question here. For the lead-based paint, does each unit every 2 years have to be checked, or is there a minimum amount of units that need to be done?
So the lead risk assessment is for each unit on the property, and so it's good for 2 years. If you choose to abate the lead from your property, and again, this is a process where you have someone go in and actually take out all of the lead hazards. Then you can apply for what's called a LIRA, which is a 20-year lead certificate where you only need to reapply in 20 years. To pass that assessment, there's a special piece of equipment that they use to test through the paint of the wall down to the base to test for lead, and you'd need to pass that test. Now, vast majority of homes built before 1978 would never pass that test because somewhere in the depths of the layers of paint there is lead. So if you have done like a full gut and reno, that's a good option for you there. If you but we don't require that folks abate lead because that's quite expensive. You can safely contain lead by putting on additional layers of paint, ensuring that your paint isn't chipping, and preventing that lead dust from getting out from where it is within your walls. And those are the places where you would get your 2-year certificate, where we're just testing to see if there's actual lead in the dust in your house from the flaked paint. And you wouldn't apply for a 20-year there.
Let's see, Scott, there's a lot of questions around how to know if an inspector is reputable. Many folks talking about being scammed. So can you just walk them through how to know around inspectors?
Sure. Let me pop this back up. I put a link in here. So the best place to find a certified lead inspector, and again, the city can't recommend a specific lead inspector, but the Lead Safe Cleveland Coalition does have a list of all of the certified risk assessors. So you can see here's a risk assessor, a different risk assessor. And so this is the full list of the folks that you could choose from. The Lead Safe Cleveland Coalition, if you're curious about one or looking to hire one, they would be a resource that you could use to talk about experience with a specific lead risk assessor. But we receive applications from most of these risk assessors in the city of Cleveland that they've performed. This link is in the slide deck, which will be up on the website and available to all of you in the next day or two as well.
Next question. I have 4 units. I'm all paying for the fee. It changed itself to 3 units. Is this normal?
So it will change itself to 3 units if you have selected the box that you, as the owner, are occupying one of the units. So if you are not occupying them and you're renting all 4, back in your application where it says, does the owner occupy one of the units, you'll want to change that to no, and it will adjust the fee for 4 units. If you are living in one of the units, then 3 units is the correct fee that you should be assessed, because we don't charge the $70 fee for a unit where the owner is residing.
You mentioned the LAIC can be an entity, but we've been told it must be a person. Please clarify.
Yes, sorry, the entity piece was a person at a company. So yes, we do need to be a person. We have people that, there are companies that provide people who are local to do it through the company, but that's correct. And sorry if that was misleading or if I misspoke. We do need to have a person who is legally required to maintain the property. The way that some landlords have found those people are through entities, would be the more accurate way to describe that.
Does a new agent in charge document need to be uploaded every year if it's the same agent representing the property from last year?
This is also functionality we're working for 2027 in order to recognize when one has already been. If you have the document, the easiest thing to do is just upload it again, because that's what's going to prompt someone from the city to look at your application and you'll get your certificate sooner. Eventually, we'll get to it by looking at ones that had one uploaded last year and that's the only document you were missing. But that's a manual thing that the current system has to do. Again, this is an us problem, not a you problem. But if you want your certificate sooner, the answer is just upload it again. But if it was registered last year, we'll find it eventually and get you your certificate.
Is there any way to edit an entry after it is submitted if an error was made? Also, how do you remove a property from a portal if we do not manage it anymore and the new management company needs to finish the registration?
So if you, I'll start with the second one. If you have a property that you no longer manage, if you haven't submitted the application, you can just abandon it, and you wouldn't have paid anything, and whatever you have entered would be there. We don't look at applications that haven't been submitted, but they are there so that you can go back and continue them if you want. So if you no longer represent the company, you didn't submit the application, just let the new company go and submit theirs. If you have submitted it and paid already, then you'd need to reach out to our rental registration team. Most likely what we would have to do then is cancel one and refund, or we could transfer some of the information from one to the other. But that's not functionality that's available on the portal without support from someone from the city.
Scott, can you give people sort of a timeline on how long to expect a response once submitting all of their information?
So if you have uploaded all your documents, then we generally get back to you within a week or two with your certificate, or with a email saying that you still need document X, or that the document that you provided wasn't sufficient in some way. We have a team of 4 or 5 people that are working on this. This time of year, we do build up a little bit of a queue because the volume is very high. But the team has been doing a great job of getting through a lot of these applications, hundreds and hundreds a day. So it shouldn't be more than a week or two if you have everything submitted. Now, I will say, if you have submitted an application and don't have all your documents, the city is not going to look at it until you have uploaded all your documents. So we have a much larger queue of applications that we're waiting on the customers to upload all of their documents. And then once they do, it kicks into our queue to say, this one looks like it's complete. Review it and issue the certificate, as long as all of the documents that they uploaded and information looks sufficient. So that actual document from your last document to getting your certificate shouldn't take more than a week or two at most.
When I submitted the registration last year, HVAC and utility information were not requested in the conditions. Do I still need to submit them? For context, we are a property management company and manage more than 4 rental units.
So you do need your HVAC certificate if it is more than 4 units. And if it did not populate last year as a condition, then it sounds like that was likely an error. The tax document is the same. We do try to help citizens as much as we can, and we will pull data on applications that are only missing their tax, because that is something that's public data and we can go look at. We often will go and just verify it for folks without needing to upload the document if the application is already in front of us. We sometimes do that with your lead safe certificate also. So if you notice that you didn't upload one of those 2 documents, but you still received your certificate, it's just because our staff was trying to be proactive and verify those things for you on your behalf to help get that certificate issued. But if you do have 4 or more units, you do need the HVAC inspection, and that's an annual inspection. So you need it done every year.
Great, thanks, Scott. It looks like that's all we have time for. I did just want to let everyone know that the presentation and slide deck will be available on our rental registration landing page on the city website. I also wanted to clear up one question that was asked many times about the legislation at the State House around the utility bills with landlords. That has not passed yet. It is still currently has to pass to the General Assembly. So once any changes are made around that, you will see the city of Cleveland posting across our platforms. And Scott, I'll turn it back to you.
All right. Well, thank you for your help, Izzy, and thank you to everyone who tuned in and everyone that will watch this in the future. The city appreciates all that you do to help make sure that the units we are renting our citizens are safe and allow our community to thrive.